Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings. As always, I'm here with Ben Bergeron. How are you, Ben?
Doing great. Thanks, Patrick. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, partly because we have a guest today. We've got a friend of the show here from down in Virginia, Mark England. How are you, my friend?
Doing very well, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on.
Good. I've mentioned you recently in a few episodes, so folks will likely recognize your name. They may also remember when you and Kim came up to CrossFit New England. I should have looked at the date. I meant to, but I totally forgot. It was a couple years ago. He came up to visit. We did some episodes. People still talk about those episodes. They loved him. And so for those folks who maybe don't remember that episode or those episodes who don't know who you are the co-founder and the head coach of Enlifted. Can you just give us like the quick and dirty version of what Enlifted is and what you focus on with Enlifted?
Yes. Enlifted is a certification company. We certify coaches in how to get their clients unstuck at the word and the breath level. So a couple of things that we've done well. We've demystified the conversation about mindset. So take this big picture thing that's, usually confusing and make it simple, and then gamify it. Make it fun to play, just like you said right before we hit the record button. Let's have some fun, gentlemen, because when you know how to play the game of improving the story that you tell yourself, people are a lot more likely to do it and continue to do it and in turn get better at it.
Love it. Cool. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a bunch today that I'm excited about specifically. And the reason I wanted to have you on is I wanted to talk to both of you about silence and solitude, the value of it, the role it's played, Mark, in your own life, Ben, obviously yours as well. I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but I want to make sure people know about chasingexcellence.email. Two reasons. One, Ben and I just kicked off a new book club. We're reading The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. It is not too late to jump into that conversation. So if you'd like to do so, chasingexcellence.email. Once you join us in the Chase Club, you'll also get ad-free episodes plus some new content. And we're also doing a little 25% off summer special. So now's the time to do it, chasingexcellence.email. If you don't want to join us there, totally cool. Still get there, still get on the free newsletter list because that's how you can get questions into future episodes. So thank you in advance for that. Okay, Mark. 3 reasons why I wanted to have this conversation. One, Ben, you and I talked relatively recently about the value of specifically running, in your case, rucking in mine, without anything in our ears, with no music, no podcasts, no audiobooks. And so that's just been on my mind. Second thing, as I just mentioned, we're in the midst of reading The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. These things have been on my mind. I'm just going to read a quick excerpt, if for no other reason, to maybe spark some conversation with us. And here's the excerpt. It's an interesting paradox. Despite the fact that people today are rarely alone, we are increasingly lonely. The world is closing in on 8 billion people, a big bowl of human soup. People surround us at work, in the grocery store, during our commute, in our neighborhood. Even when we are by ourselves, we are often with the people who speak to us through our televisions, podcasts, or text messages. Yet nearly half of Americans say they're lonely, leading the U.S. government to declare that we're facing a loneliness epidemic. And then finally, Mark, I wanted to have you on this because as I've gotten to know you a little bit more, I've noticed a penchant you have for long road trips by yourself in your truck. Yeah. And so all of these things have been swirling around in my mind. And I thought, let's get Mark here and talk about this because I feel like silence and solitude is something that pairs really nicely with the words and the breath and the story. And so all of that as just fodder for conversation. I'd love to start, Mark, with what you think about when I say like, hey, let's talk about silence and solitude. What does that mean for you?
The first thing that I thought, Patrick, was cool. This is, and I've been counting, obviously, this is my 420th podcast that I've been on. And this is the first time that I've ever talked about silence and solitude, which is something that I can speak directly to, definitively to, because it's, and I spend a lot of time by myself and I like it. My stepmom, my second mom, Susan, she asks me maybe once a year, she goes, do you ever get lonely? And I think to myself, what is that? What does that mean? And one of the reasons I say that is the interactions that I have with people are very meaningful. The interactions that I have with Kimberly and Adam, the Enlifted team, very meaningful, very enriching. I love the work that we do. That 8,000 mile road trip that I went on. 7 weeks, 8,000 miles. For 3/4 of it was by myself. Kim was with us for the last leg. That's a lot of time by yourself. And then interspersed was 16 workshops, in-person workshops. So it's not that I need it. It needs a little bit of a loaded word. In order for me to do quality work, I require time to reflect, time by myself. A lot of those 8,000 miles, a lot of that, even though I got a bumping system in my truck, silent and just crushing miles, staring at things, clarifying things. And so part of it is I get a lot out of my time with people. I really only hang out with people that I enjoy hanging out with or want to hang out with. That goes a long way for me. And then two, there's also part of me that I'm turning 48 in a few days, and so that's enough time to put some data points on the board. When I look back at what I've done, so some people handle or like solitude and quiet time more than other people. When I look back on the stuff that I've gravitated towards, like fighting, I mean, it's just you in the ring. That's a pretty lonely place. You got team, you got support, but it's you in there. Mm-hmm. Same thing on stage when you're giving presentations. It's just you up there. And then, same thing, coaching sessions, it's you and another person. And, the first 8 years of my practice, I was doing it by myself. So, yeah, when you mentioned this podcast topic, I thought to myself, this is the first time I've ever talked about something that I can talk about on a personal level and professional level. And also the quality of my quiet time and my alone time that I spend with myself now has gotten better and better and better because my mindset, the story that I tell myself, has improved exponentially as I walk this path. And one of the reasons why people do not like quiet is because of the story that they're telling themselves in their head. They need some kind of external distraction, whether it's a TV on in the background or scrolling through social media or music on something. So I'm negation acknowledged, not exclusively left alone with the scary thoughts in my head. Mm-hmm. Myself personally, I don't have many scary thoughts anymore. And when I do, well, let me enlift that. I don't have thoughts anymore. I observe them. Okay. There's a difference. I have all these negative thoughts versus I observe all these negative thoughts. I know what to do with the trash talking voice in my head when it shows up because I don't have a perfect mindset. The story that I tell myself is not pristine and positive 100% of the time. It's exponentially better than when I started. So the intensity of it has decreased and the volume of it has decreased. And then when it does show up, I more or less just observe it. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten better at being with myself. You add all those things together, and I love the time that I get with people. We're about to have, and I could care less about my birthday. It's just a reason to have a party. We're having 70 people come out to our family farm this weekend for the entire weekend. People are rolling up in Class A, B, and C RVs, people flying in from a bunch of different countries. So 70 people for a weekend at your family farm, that's a lot of socializing. I love the time that I get to spend with people, and I love the time that I get by myself. It's a good balance.
Man, that's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot. I particularly like that idea of, when you first, like anything, when you start a new practice is hard and challenging. When you haven't gone to the gym in 10 years, your first few days in the gym are really uncomfortable at best and maybe even painful. If you're learning to play guitar, your fingers hurt when you start to play, and it can be really frustrating because it's so much effort for very little reward. And as Mark was saying, this idea of what solitude leaves you with and silence leaves you with is a conversation with yourself. And we are storytelling machines. So we start to tell ourselves stories, and those stories, if we haven't practiced, can be uncomfortable at best and painful, most likely. And what we then search for is, well, this isn't fun, this isn't good. So we look for a distraction. Plop in a podcast, let's get that music bumping, call somebody, And all those things, we're fans of, we're on a podcast. So we're obviously fans of podcasts. We're fans of music. We're fans of being with people. I think the shared contention is that there's a time and a place. And there's a time and a place for social. There's a time and a place for education. There's a time and a place for entertainment and inspiration. And there is a time and a place for you to get good at being comfortable with yourself. And the way to do that is through silence and solitude. Whether that is through a meditation practice, through some form of journaling, through just, as Mark said, where he enlifted his own thoughts, whether that's just observing your own thoughts while you're in the shower or driving to work with nothing on. It allows you this opportunity to take a step back and go, wait a minute, most people, the thoughts that they have, they think I define who they are. I am my thoughts. If you sit with that for a little bit, you go, wait a minute, like maybe I'm not my thoughts. Maybe I'm like the thinker of my thoughts. And then you sit with that for a little bit, you go, wait a minute, maybe I'm not the thinker of my thoughts. Maybe I'm the observer of my thoughts. And that's really where we'd love to get to is once you become the observer of your thoughts, the thoughts come in and pass and go, and you don't have to lay extra judgment on top of them. And that's really when you can then become more comfortable with yourself. You are now enlifting yourself as a human being because you've practiced the quality of the conversation that you are observing in your own head. And if anything if there's anything that's worthy of our efforts, it's to be comfortable with the conversation that's in our own heads. If that is a uncomfortable, scary, or painful situation for us, the thing to do is not distract or avoid, it's to lean in. And that should be a big telltale sign like, wow, when I sit with nothing to do in a doctor's office, waiting for my name to be called, and it's been 19 minutes, and I have a hard time not pulling out my phone because I have that temptation to pull my mind away from the conversation that's happening. To me, that's a red flag. That's a hand going up in the air like, we got some work to do here. And then it becomes the practice, and how do we want to do it? Is it meditation? Is it long walks in the woods? Is it 8,000 miles in a Class C RV? Is it just using the 3, 4, 5 minutes of the shower in the morning to be the observer of my thoughts? And there's no right or wrong, and there's no right entry point to that practice. But the idea is it's going to take work. Nobody hits age 50 being able to run a 6-minute mile, back squat 315 pounds, and have a six-pack without doing work. Like, you don't get there without the work. So if you want the results, which we all do, like who doesn't want to be comfortable with their own thoughts, recognize it takes some work. We're not by default programmed to be able to do this. Nature has no concern with you being comfortable with your own thoughts. It could care less. In fact, it's probably the opposite. It wants you on high alert, anxious. It wants you vigilant. It wants you uncomfortable. You're going to survive better if you're uncomfortable. But that doesn't serve us in today's society. And we're certainly not going to create a really happy, fulfilled life if that's where we are at all times.
Yeah, and what you said, the word comfortable. And so what is, if we keep going with the conversation of slowing our mind down or becoming more comfortable with our thoughts or working on our mindset, which let's talk about that too. What does that mean to work on our mindset? Because I hear that a lot. I know you all hear that a lot. God, I really need to work on my mindset. What's the goal of all of those things? A meditation practice, long walks. What's the end result? And the end result is for people to be more comfortable in their skin and be more downregulated. And one of the reasons why people are so quick to reach for a phone or turn on the TV or call somebody or just go out and be around people is that the story in their head is going fast. When people say that my life is out of control, what they're saying is that my story is out of control. And if we start to break that down into components, well, what does that mean? That means the story is going really fast and it's in their head. And one of the fastest ways to slow that story down is to pick up a pen and write those words down. A journaling practice done well will yield profound results. It can be a net negative. It can be circle journaling. Get it? It can be circle journaling if people write down whatever, they just journal in a general way and leave the words there. As in, look, I've got the proof that I've been wrong. Here it is. I've got it in writing. That can be a net negative. It usually is. And if people know how to get the words on paper and slow the story down and get the breath in there, breath trapped in the chest, that means we're attached to those words, whether they're in our head or on paper. And I mean, we're known as the language people. That's cool. You all have heard me say this. Push comes to shove, gun to head. It's about unlocking people's breath so they can, which is one of the main levers when it comes to helping someone improve the story that they tell themselves. Mindset. What's mindset, everybody? It's the story that you tell yourself. So we're back to demystified. Let's demystify this thing. A simple definition. CrossFit did it. They defined fitness. Look what happened there. Let's define mindset since we're talking about it so much, and people know how important it is. People know how much they get in their own way. People know how much they get in their own way. People know how much they talk themselves out of things. They know how much they self-sabotage. People aren't stupid. Of course not. They're aware. Then how do I stop doing that? How do I stop doing that? And addressing this, it's going to come down to the words in the breath. Yeah, and so you mentioned comfortable. What's the outcome people are looking for? Become more comfortable with themselves. And if you're more comfortable with yourself, that's a byproduct of you becoming more comfortable with your story. You didn't learn how to become comfortable with your story, the story you tell yourself in English class in 10th grade. No one learned that, not at least in any public school that I'm familiar with.
When you were here a few weeks ago, and to fill people in, I guess, Mark came and did a talk and a seminar at our gym, and it was phenomenal. And one of the things that one of the practices we did, one of the games that we did was writing things down a lot.
Yeah. And
you made a small comment that really resonated with me a lot, because people that listen to the podcast, and certainly Patrick knows that I've journaled very methodically and very disciplined for upwards of a decade. Mm-hmm. And I did a gratitude practice daily for a very long time. And I did it because the research says it's so powerful, and I have yet to feel any benefit from it. And one of the things that popped up was you said no shorthand, no bullet points, write in full sentences. So for the last month or so, whenever you were here, I started to do that, and it's different. It changed. I used to write, one of the things I write 3 bullets every day. What do I appreciate? What's my daily intention? And what am I excited about? Those 3 things. And I would go and then I would journal about my thoughts, amongst other things. But I would go and I would write down health of my kids. But I would only write down health of my kids. And since you were here, now I write, I appreciate that my kids are healthy. And even me just saying those words out loud like that, when I say health of my kids, nothing happens. When I say out loud, I appreciate that my kids are healthy, like right now I can feel it. I can feel it. Can you share a little bit of the Enlifted methodology in terms of that aspect of what you lean into?
Happy to. And then we'll add another thing in that works wonders. If you want to 100x the power of your gratitude practice or affirmations, because they're very similar. So we'll speak directly to the difference between bullet points and shorthand and conversational writing. So, and I only understand so much of the stuff that we do. A lot of it is it's over my head. And you know what? I don't need to understand it. I don't need to understand how to build a truck in order to get in that truck and drive 8,000 miles. Okay. And so like a lot of the metaphysics of this stuff is just, anyway, I don't make the rules, everybody. And what we have noticed for a very long time is that a bullet-pointed gratitude journal or gratitude practice is a net negative for one reason, the outcome, which very rarely is there any. And when people, kudos to you, Ben, for having that Bethlehem steel work ethic to, even though you're not feeling it, you keep doing it. That's cool.
It'll pay off someday. It'll pay off someday. So side tangent. I took a personality test. Someone was like, you got to read the 4 tendencies.
Okay.
I took a personality test. I'm an upholder, which means if it's put in front of me, I go and do it. Just for the fact that I like organization, I like discipline. And it's one of the reasons it was so enlightening when I read that, because like, why doesn't everyone do this? It's like, it's the second most rare personality type. So I was like, now I understand a lot. I was talking to my wife, and she's like, yeah, no duh. I'm like, yeah, no one else does this stuff.
Yeah. That's, and a lot of people say that. They say that about their affirmation practice. They say, I like it. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of a gratitude practice. I like the idea of affirmations, but, and then you know what's coming, I just don't feel it. And then someone in Sedona holds up a crystal standing on a vortex, and they say, well, that's because you got to say it for 108 days until it sinks into your subconscious mind. No, people do not respond well to bullet points and half sentences when it comes to eliciting feelings and emotions. Historically, we have not told stories that way. So if you want to tell yourself a story, if you want to feel gratitude, tell yourself the full story of the gratitude, or at least tell it in full sentences. So write it out like you talk. Write it out like you would tell someone. Write like you would tell your daughter or son how grateful you are for them. Write it out in full sentences. Whatever the thing is that you're grateful for, write it in full sentences, also known as conversational writing. That right there is hit majorly, historically, eternally. That's how we've used language. Okay, that's one thing. And then the second thing, and so most people's affirmations, they are in full sentences. Okay, that's better than half sentences or bullet points. And what you want to do is do the unthinkable, which is in between each affirmation, get a full inhale, take a full inhale, and then have a full exhale. So and then in between each sentence, and what that's going to do, 3 ways of saying the same thing. It's going to help socialize the idea, take it to heart, embody the concept. Because when someone's breath is trapped in the chest and they're having a gratitude practice or repeating their affirmations, the breath is trapped in the chest. It's just this mental exercise. Things are improving for me. I'm making a lot of progress. I'm very supported. Everybody likes me. My back squat's coming along. I'm really dedicated to my macros. And it's this thing that just, you hear the words, but you don't feel it. Mm-hmm. If you want to feel the gratitude, everybody, and this is something you can do this. Don't take my word on it. Just try it out and watch what happens. Write out 10 things that you're grateful for, full sentences, 1 thing per sentence, and then read them. Read the first one, get a breath in there, let all the air out. And then the next one, get a breath in there and let all the air out. And keep going. Sentence breathing, and it's going to light you up. You're going to feel it, and you don't need 108 days to get to what people want from their affirmation practice, which is 1, to feel it, and 2, for it to be matter of fact, or have that sense of certainty about the idea. So once and it takes roughly about 7 days, 6 to 7 days, when you combine better words plus better breathing, and once you get to matter of fact, seeds planted, walk away. And then to go back to because this is very common. I noticed this. So I've been doing this one thing 17 years, everybody, staring at words. I noted this phenomenon before I figured out how to remediate it. I'd be in workshops and stuff, and people would say, name 3 things you're grateful for. And some guy would raise their hand and say, my family, my friends, and my health. And you could just see it on his face. There was no energy there. He didn't feel any of that. And then half the time they'd go, well, I don't feel that. And then they'd say something along the lines of, does that make me a bad person? And I know what they're thinking in their head. I should feel gratitude for those things, but I don't, and because I'm a piece of shit. So it can be a net negative. If you don't get the feeling payoff of the writing practice, then you're going to think something's wrong with you. And a lot of times there's nothing wrong with you. It's the structure of the storytelling needs some adjustment. And that adjustment is going to come down to better words, better breathing, and then usually rate of speech. Those three things, those are the most three powerful levers when it comes to improving someone's mindset. How fast is the story going? Most people have no idea that they can control the rate of the story. Very important. Or that they can improve the words. They totally can. A lot easier to do once you get it on paper. And then, my breath is involved and somewhat responsible or a lot responsible for the quality of the story that I tell myself. Yeah, majorly. You can't, good luck separating those things. Words and breath. So, yeah, that Ben, great job picking up on that, and that's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
Okay, gentlemen, let's pause for just 2 minutes so we can say thanks to a few sponsors. We're brought to you folks out there by a new sponsor this time around, Magic Spoon. If you're like me, you've probably tried a ton of different protein bars. Most of them are too chewy or dense or fall apart when you try to eat them. That's why we're thrilled to hear about Magic Spoon's new treats. You might already know Magic Spoon for their high-protein cereal that has over 75,000 five-star reviews. That's a lot of reviews. Well, they've turned that cereal into delicious high-protein treats that are light, crispy, and perfect for a pre-workout boost or a wholesome snack on the go. I love these things, and my kids do too, I should add. Each Magic Spoon treat has 11 grams of protein, just 1 gram of sugar, and 4 net carbs, so you can feel pretty good about what you're eating. The texture is delectably crispy and airy, unlike the weird chewiness of most protein bars. Plus, they come in 6 nostalgic flavors like marshmallow, chocolatey peanut butter, blueberry double chocolate birthday cake, and strawberry milkshake. I've got a 20-minute drive to the gym in the mornings, and I've enjoyed having half a treat on the way to get a little something in my stomach, and then the other half on the way home to treat myself, I suppose you would say. I've been a big fan of Magic Spoon cereal for years, and that's why we're excited to partner with them for the launch of treats. Scoop up these new crispy, crunchy, protein-packed treats in your nearest grocery store. Next time you're shopping, keep an eye out. Magic Spoon. Hold on to the dream. We're also brought to you this time around by the Defender family of vehicles. For those who embrace the impossible, the Defender family of vehicles is up for the adventure. The Defender has been redefined with thoroughly modern design, built with robust materials and integrity. It's ready for off-road challenges and harsh weather conditions. Learn more about these beauties at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender. The Defender 110 lets you go further and do more, whether you're facing off-road challenges or planning a family road trip, or, of course, planning an off-road family vacation, as one does. Nothing says make memories with the kids like screaming at Dad from the backseat as he bushwhacks through the woods in his Defender, refusing to stop and ask for directions. With cargo capacity, there's plenty of room for your gear, gym or otherwise, and with innovative camera technologies, you'll have unobstructed views and effortless maneuvering. Here on the show, we talk about pushing boundaries and exploring new territories, both metaphorically and literally, and what better way to do that than with the Defender. It's not just a vehicle, it is a lifestyle, one of adventure, exploration, and embracing the impossible. So whether you're planning your next big adventure or just eager to try something new, make sure you check out the Defender series at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender. It's time to embrace the impossible with the Defender family of vehicles. Okay, Mark, you one of the things you were just talking about is the people want to feel the words. They want to feel whether it's gratitude, appreciation, whatever it might be. And thinking, to the start of this conversation, this idea of silence and solitude. And I think that one of the things that can scare us away from silence and solitude is actually the feelings that we can sometimes bump up against if, maybe in your words, our stories are weak stories or we're telling ourselves a false story. And so what would you say to somebody who would say, like, yeah, I know I pick up my phone too often. I know I don't give myself silence and solitude. I know I run away from those things. But when I do them, it hurts.
Yep.
I don't like what I hear there. I don't like what I feel. when, to Ben's example, I'm 15 minutes into the doctor's appointment and I have no reception on my phone. And so I've done nothing but stare at the wall. Yeah. What are one or two steps, maybe it's journaling, that they can start to implement into a practice such that they can get beyond the resistance that they feel when they feel what they feel?
Fantastic question. And considering the caliber of the gentleman that I'm speaking to and the audience, Ben, what would you say to someone who comes into your gym for the first time and they've never worked out and they say, listen, part of me is scared that this is going to hurt. How long is it going to hurt for? What would you tell them? Because it's the same thing with our mindsets. There's going to be a period of discomfort. And if you time everybody, you're like, okay, this is going to suck for 60 days. What would you tell the average person when it comes to getting a baseline of fitness?
Yeah, so my approach is to create 1 foot hurdles. So I'm trying to make it as little as pain as possible. You don't get fitter by one big, amazing, hard, painful workout. Nobody does. No single person in the world has ever gotten fit from a workout, a week of workout, or even a month of working out. This takes years and decades. So my goal is to lower it so much that it's not about the practice, not about the result. So my goal is to make it as unpainful as possible so that they just enjoy it. So said another way, if this was the mindset thing, you lower the expectations so much and you lower the bar so much that they can just do it. It's like, all I want you to do, like getting my kids to brush their teeth in the beginning, it's like, just put the stuff on the toothpaste and put it in your mouth every single day. Like, we'll talk about all the other stuff later on, but every day we just need you to do that thing. So it's about the habit of it. Now, I don't know if that's what you would say for the mindset approach, but...
Yes, that's exactly what I would say. Patrick, will you hold up those soft talk keywords?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, folks.
So this is...
read them real quick?
Yes, please. And this, everybody, so I mentioned earlier when we first started, demystifying and then gamifying. So demystifying, getting a good definition of mindset and making this big picture philosophical scary thing that I know I need to improve upon and work on, but how do I do it? Making that conversation more approachable. Okay, listen, we all have a story that we're telling ourselves. We all have a mindset, and we're participating in it. That's really good news, everybody. Scary for part of us, and then also, it is. It's better than the universe damning us from the moment we were conceived, and then gamifying it. So if someone's like, "Hey, man, I really need to work on my mindset," I'm like, "Let's focus on soft talk." So let's set these 1 foot hurdles. Patrick, what are the words? What are the soft talk keywords?
Yep. Probably, perhaps, feels like, guess, maybe, could, might, possibly, sort of, kind of, potentially, hopefully, try, one day, should, almost like.
Those words right there, also known as verbal litter, those are the gateway drugs, the gateway drug to the rest of your words, the rest of your language, the rest of your story, everybody. And we start there almost always. And then the real answer to your question, Patrick, what would I tell someone? It depends on the person. If they wanted to improve, I'd ask them some more questions. And the 2 most common answers that I give to the question about what do we do, one of them is for people to slow down their rate of speech by 5%. For one reason, well, several. And the main reason is that they're going to feel that. If someone slows down their rate of speech by 5%, that's a big deal, and they're going to feel the difference. They're going to have to think about their thinking. And it's also going to loosen up the breath. Phenomenal. And it's something that anyone can do at any point in time. Most people, once they get into the game, they usually slow down a little bit. That they change their baseline from about 5 to whatever their normal is to 5 to 10% slower. So they've got more command over their words and their stories, and they're also breathing better. So the better that you breathe, everybody, the better that you're going to deliver your words. You're going to have a wider range of expression. You're going to sound better. Okay. You're going to be more interesting to listen to. The list goes on and on for just by slowing down the rate of speech. So that's the 30,000 foot view. And then when it comes to what words to use less of and why, only if you want to decrease chronic indecision. I mean, who likes prolonged bouts of indecision? That's majorly a flavor of stress and pain and the victim mentality. Then start plucking out those soft talk keywords and watch what happens. I think I might need to start getting in the gym more one day. Take out the think. I might need to start getting in the gym more one day. Take out the one day. I might need to start getting in the gym. Take out the start. I might need to get in the gym. Take out the might. I need to get in the gym. And so that gives me a way of clarifying what I'm telling myself and make some moves. Most people have black belts in talking themselves out of stuff that they know would improve their life. You know, most people are pain aware. They know something's not quite right. Most people know that they talk themselves out of stuff. They just don't know how. Like, I know I'm in discomfort and I know that something's off. I just don't know how I keep doing it. You know, these are two very different questions, and I'm pretty sure I posed both of them in those two episodes we did a while ago. Thanks again for having us back, everybody. Gentlemen, this is a real honor. There's a big difference, everybody, between these two questions. Why do I keep talking myself out of opportunity? And how do I keep talking myself out of opportunity? The answer to that first question, you're going to get another opinion, which usually is worthless. The answer to that second question, you're going to get a process. And if you know how you're doing something, then you're on the path to figuring out how to change it. And when it comes to procrastinating and 550-second guessing yourself and being wishy-washy, those words are going to be in there. That's how people do that. That's how people create the indecision. They're using maybes and thinks and mights and sort ofs and kind ofs. It's almost like I'm procrastinating. Take out the almost like. Watch what happens. And again, back to the fact that it's once you get down to the rubber meets the road, the words and the breath, then it's simple and it's practical. The root word of practical is practice. You can practice using your words different, and you will feel the difference. And all someone needs is one experience of going from, I think I might need to I'm going to. So what did I just do right there? I slowed the story down and I took out the soft talk. And then the thing happens. I'm like, whoa, I like that. And you know what they're saying right there? I like that. Take out the that and put in themselves. I like myself. I like myself more when I'm able to stay focused on what's important, move towards the things that excite me, breathe well, listen. Your ability to listen goes hand in hand with your ability to breathe well. And half of life is good listening. Show me someone who's been successful in areas of their life, and I'll show you someone who's been able to pay attention.
Mm. What's interesting about that is when we are constantly bombarded with noise, again, in whatever form it might come, podcast, YouTube, politics, news, people, whatever it might be, what I think we lose is the space we need to actually listen, the space we need to hear the story that might be rolling around in our heads. And if we don't hear it, if we don't listen, if we don't create the space for it, we can't do the thing that you're describing, Mark, which is to edit the story, to take out the soft talk, to really, quite frankly, ask ourselves, is that thing true, that story that I keep telling myself? And so I think maybe as a final or almost final question here, I would love from both of you, what do we lose when we don't create that space to listen for ourselves? What, in your experiences, and you guys, the two of you have worked with so many people at this point, what will you lack if you don't make a concerted effort to listen to yourself?
I don't know if you lose it. You definitely slow down your ability to develop. You absolutely slow down your ability to make improvements with yourself, on yourself. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that I would echo. And I think the reason for that is if the noise is coming in a constant stream of a train, here's one message, then here's the next message, then here's the next message. You can envision scrolling through Instagram. How much are you actually absorbing and learning from any one of those one messages? Because you comes in and you flip to the next one, there's no time for reflection. There's no time to absorb. And it's our three pillars. It takes awareness, intention, and action. If you're just constantly like berated with this kaleidoscope of information, there's no picture, you can't even see the picture, let alone have a conversation about it, let alone learn about it, let alone better yourself because of it. So with a little bit of solitude, with a little bit of silence, with a little bit of space, imagine if you only watched one Instagram, I'm just using that as an example, if there's one Instagram reel, and you had to sit on that one singular Instagram reel and watch it 30 times over. And after you watched it 30 times, then you had to sit in silence and think about it for 30 minutes. How much awareness would there be about what the true message is? What would be the intention that you would pull out of that? Well, now because of this, I'm going to go and do this. And then you would have the availability to go and then take action, which is the actual development. I think that's the important thing, is that without the space, as Mark said, I think you lose the ability to really develop yourself. And that's what we're all after. I mean, talk about chasing what truly matters. If we want to fill up everyone else's cup, we got to fill up our own first. Filling up our own cup, a huge part of that is the development of ourselves. So I think it's one of those things that we can easily bypass. And it's like, well, I will. And I am culprit number one of this is like, reading Comfort Crisis. I'm like, okay, I need to go on an epic elk hunt, in the backwoods of Alaska to be able to create. It's the only way to do this. Meanwhile, the opportunities are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. And I know this in other areas of my life. It's not about, I'm going to go on an 8-day fast. It's not, I'm going to go start this crazy diet. It's just like, no, it's the 50 dozen small decisions I make every day about nutrition. And it's the same thing with this. It's about, no, I'm not going to pick up my phone now. I'm just going to sit here for a moment and just kind of like contemplate my own thoughts now. That's the thing that makes the change.
But out of all the stuff that we've talked about, that might be the most important thing any of us have said, is that you don't need to go to Antarctica and live in an ice cave to get a sliver of relief. Just a little bit can go a long way, everybody. A little bit can go on a slow walk. Go on a 20-minute slow walk. Watch what happens. When someone slows down their rate of speech, the breath is going to loosen up. When someone slows down how fast they walk, they zoom out. You get perspective, just like a pair of binoculars. And most people, they don't need enlightenment. Would they even want it? They don't need to go on that 8-day elk hunt and then strap the head to the front of the truck like Boss Hog and go on an 8,000-mile road trip and then 19-day fast and like all this stuff. And a lot of times you'll get 80% of relief from a 20% effort in something that'll, you got to go find the things that'll work for you. But yeah, a little bit can go a long way. Plucking out a couple of maybes and some thinks during a week. If you take out 6 pieces of soft talk consciously out of your vocabulary in 1 week, you're going to feel the difference and you're going to like yourself more.
I love that. All right, Mark, we got to let you go. But before we do, last time you were on, and this wasn't our intent, but I think one of the things that happened is people responded so well to what you were doing with Enlifted that we accidentally sent a bunch of people over to become Enlifted coaches. And so I know you've got some certifications coming. Real quick, give some folks, if they do want to dive even deeper, if they are a coach, if they're a CrossFit coach, a nutrition coach, whatever, how can they learn a little bit more about Enlifted?
Go to enlifted.me. That's our website. All the information on the certs, the level 1 certs, level 1, level 2 are on there. We've got a block of certifications coming up in August and September. I teach all of those certifications. They're small batch, 10 people per cert. All the classes are taught live. The coaching sessions are done live. Yeah, it's real artisan work. And then we've got a podcast, which is all about coaching with about the words and the stories. That's all it's about, with some, entertaining stories, of course. That's a Get Enlifted. Yeah, those two. And shout out to all the cool people that came over from Chasing Excellence and took the Enlifted certs. Once we got this book, Patrick, I posted in the Enlifted community that we were going on for a third time, and 7 or 8 people, and that's not all of them, said, that's how I got here.
Love it.
So y'all's audience is stellar.
Happy to
People
hear it.
love you, man.
Love it. Cool. Mark, thank you so very much. Hopefully we can do this again soon, because I always love talking to you. I love spending some time with you. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Thank you for your ratings and your reviews. Ben and I will be back for a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence soon.